Mafia 3's launch has been a bit mixed, especially on PC. Of course, the story, from what I've seen, seems pretty good, and from what I've read of other people's thoughts on it, the game's story is the best part. You know, the issues with the game elsewhere aren't enough to impact that, but it seems they can't even escape controversy within the story itself, as unionists have been calling for Mafia 3 to be banned for quote-unquote glorifying IRA bombing. Now, of course, as we all know, the setting of Mafia 3 is pretty relevant here. It's set in 1968 in a fictional recreation of New Orleans, and there are numerous aspects of the game that are upsetting unionists, and there are numerous references in the main story to Irish Republican politics, but the main thing that seems to have got them all riled up is a particular mission, a side mission, might I add, called Don't Ask. Basically, a character called Thomas Burke has to deliver 3 cars to his IRA connections and charges you, the player character, for stealing them with them, and during the cutscene he makes several references to Belfast and, quote, keep the Belfast law guessing when things go boom, and, you know, referencing a few things which are pretty obvious what they're talking about. Now, if you want to watch this mission, I hadn't actually played it myself, there is a link in the description below this video to someone else's YouTube video. Give it a watch if you're so inclined. Words are hard. Now, there's also some graffiti in the game that features a defaced Ulster banner. So it's this plus the mission itself, and also the various references that seem to upset the Democratic Unionist Party MP Jeffrey Donaldson, who has called on 2K to withdraw the game from sale, and said some things about being concerned about the impact it could have on quote-unquote impressionable minds. Oh yeah, that'll stick again. And he said, quote, "The IRA were a terrorist organisation that murdered very many innocent men, women and children in Northern Ireland and other parts of the UK. While this game may seem like a work of fiction for some, it could be seen as trivialising the suffering of innocent victims and the evil that is represented by all forms of terrorism. I invite the makers of this game to come to Northern Ireland and meet some of the innocent victims of the IRA and then consider whether the contents are appropriate. I hope they can be persuaded to withdraw the game and think again." However, it wasn't the only one who was upset. There was a similar sentiment coming from the traditionalist unionist voice leader Jim Allister, who went so far as to make the very bold accusation that Mafia 3 is a, quote, sick glamorization of terrorism. And he went on to say, quote, "When they use the name of an actual terrorist organisation in this fashion, they are being even more insensitive as victims were directly impacted by actions such as those portrayed in this game. This game would appear to treat the IRA in a fashion which is grossly offensive to the many people who suffered as a result of IRA bombs. This may be viewed as another clever way of earning money by some, but it's most insensitive to victims. I would urge all involved in the production of this game to consider how they would feel if they had lost a loved one or a limb in a provisional bombing." Now, again, I haven't gotten this far in the game myself. I've only played what you guys have watched, which is about an hour and a half or so, but from what I'm reading, and this is just a little bit of research done online based on, you know, walkthroughs and other such things, it seems that when you finish all of Burke's missions, he reveals it was actually selling the cars in the US to raise enough money to get his daughter out of the city, and the IRA thing was a cover story, so she didn't find out. Now, even if that wasn't the case, and do, again, correct me if this information is wrong, this is purely gleaned from what I've read online, so if this is incorrect, do let me know, because obviously I want to get this sorted out if it is incorrect. But let's just say, even if it is correct, even if it wasn't in the game, even if this wasn't the case, this is a game based on real events. It's based on this particular time, this particular city. You know, it's not New Orleans, but it's based on New Orleans. That's why there's such a heavy theme of racism in the game, because obviously you play a black character and it's 1968. There's of course going to be quite a bit of racism in that time, and the IRA were active in this time, and obviously when you've got a character who has connections to the Irish mob, it's not unreasonable to say that there's going to be some sort of IRA crossover there, given that they were around during that time. Now, we should be allowed to discuss things that actually happened in a video game, film, book, a zoetrope, a drawing that I made out of condensation on my window. It's a thing that we're allowed to do, guys. And bringing out the old, tired, battered, full of holes argument of, oh, impressionable minds, think of the children, oh please. How many times do we have to debunk that argument? How many times? You know, games are a form of art, freedom of expression, and, you know, again, this is something that actually happened during this time, and this game is very much based on here's things that happened during this time. And given the setting of the game, again, it's not unreasonable that they included this. And yes, it might be troubling for people who actually went through this, but, you know, it's a side mission, and they can just not play it. We shouldn't be silenced from discussing difficult parts of history, because, well, that's how history repeats itself, friends. I mean, how many films, games, and everything have they been made about, probably actually atrocious events that happen in the World Wars, like countless at this point, but you don't see anyone going, oh, the children, think of the children, at least not anymore. They probably was at one time, but you get my point. And also, just because this particular game portrays this event and actually has it within the storyline doesn't mean they're glamorizing it. If I'm drinking water, doesn't mean I'm glamorizing drinking water. It just means I'm drinking water. Sorry guys, I can't really muster up the energy to be annoyed at this, to be honest. 2K are not going to pull the game from sale because a bunch of people are upset talking to the Irish news. It's not going to happen. You don't see people getting upset about all the other themes in the game that could be considered quote-unquote offensive. I mean, from what I've seen, the writers have handled it with tact and aplomb. So, yeah. I don't really have anything else to say. I feel like I'm just going to keep going in a loop and repeating myself, to be honest. It's just... This is not glamorization, this is just discussing a real thing that happened within a video game, like we have done with other forms of media, since forms of media were a thing that were actually existing in the human space. With that in mind, I think I'm done. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.